Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be going through the 1.5.5 patch notes for the finals. This is the newest patch that released a couple of hours ago today. So, in this video, this is the video that was posted on the official YouTube for the finals, and it just showcases this new skin and a couple of new gun skins as well. I'm not going to go through that, but you can go watch that video if you want. It just showcases skins. There's nothing else in there. So, welcome to 1.5.5. Today's update comes with a number of balance changes for weapons and gadgets, including a decrease in the length of invulnerability after revival. We've also implemented crash fixes and an adjustment to tournament matchmaking that will lead to tighter player skill gap in tournaments. I will be coming back to this point later. There is also a fix to the crossplay settings so it can be turned off successfully. On top of all of this, we have some new content in the store. We have a survey available now in Embark ID that focuses on Solar Blanket, and we'd appreciate it if you had the time to give us some feedback on this experimental mode. A note about the future: based on your feedback and our own telemetry evaluation, we recognize that the Recon Sense's ability for the medium build needs an overhaul, and we're working on that right now. You can look forward to that change and more in next week's update. So yeah, like, in the last patch, not this patch, in the patch before this, they nerfed the recon senses so that it didn't last as long. You could use it like less, but it really didn't do anything. Like, most people are still using recon senses. It's either that or healing beam for the medium, right? But it didn't really change how many people were using it. It's still very, very good, and I think that it did kind of need an overhaul, or like a revamp, because there wasn't really any way of nerfing it that wouldn't just like make it completely unusable. You know, like, people would still use it. Even if they nerfed how long you could use it for again, people would still use it. Or even if they like nerfed the range, it would still be very, very good, right? So I think that this is going to be changed kind of and be more similar to how Bloodhound works in Apex. Like, either you're going to be able to see like footprints someone leaves behind, or you're going to be able to, it's just gonna like flash for a second, or it's gonna work like thermal vision does, where it's on like a timer or something like that. I'm not so sure, but it definitely just does need a change, and I'm glad that that is being worked on. And also it should be in next week's update, which is exciting. Hooray. Balance changes. Gadgets, defibrillators. Decrease the length of invulnerability applied after revive to 0.75 seconds from 1.5 seconds. So I was kind of expecting this to be removed completely, but hey, it's been like nerfed by half the duration, so that's a step in the right direction. And if it's still broken after this, then it can just be removed. But they've like halved it, which is a pretty hefty nerf, but I think it's much, much deserved. I think that's very good. They've also done the same thing with revives. Now, there wasn't a whole lot of point to do it for revives as well, but I guess it does make sense. So that is also there, and I guess it keeps it kind of fair too. So those are both good changes. Weapons. 0.357 Revolver. Decrease the amount of bullet dispersion applied when aiming down sights. So I am flabbergasted that this was ever a thing in the first place. Bullet dispersion while aiming down sights for the Revolver is a bit insane, and I guess that's why it was so inaccurate. But it's very, very good that that's been decreased. Hopefully you can actually hit shots with a Revolver now, because it's honestly one of the least accurate weapons in the game. So hopefully that helps with that. And now, these next two are interesting. Reduced damage fall-off start range to 23 meters from 35 meters. So the range of the Revolver has been reduced. That's a nerf. They've reduced the damage fall-off start range to 23 meters, so that's a nerf. They've also reduced the damage fall-off end range to 40 meters from 50 meters, and I'm pretty sure that's also a nerf. So it's kind of interesting, because they've buffed it here to make it more accurate, and then I guess now it's maybe going to be quite accurate, so they don't want it to do as much damage at longer ranges or something. I'm not so sure, but we've got a buff and two nerfs there for the Revolver. I'm going to have to go out in-game and try to see how accurate this is now, but like before, it's very, very hard to hit shots, and hopefully now it's a little bit easier. CL40, increase player damage to 110 from 100. This is interesting because the CL40 didn't really need a damage buff, it just needed a mag size buff, and that 110... even though it's up by 10 damage, it still has a very, very small mag size, and it's not going to be, like, you're not suddenly going to be two-shotting people, you know? It's still going to take the same amount of shots to kill each of the classes. So that really doesn't change a whole lot for it. It should have got this and a mag size to make it as usable as the FCAR, for example. But it's a step in the right direction anyway. At least it wasn't, like, nerfed, you know? FCAR, decreased damage to 25 from 26. Now, this is interesting because the FCAR, people use the FCAR because the AKM has loads of visual recoil and it's really annoying. If the AKM didn't have any visual recoil, loads more people would be using that, and then it would be like 50-50 between the FCAR and the AKM. The thing about the FCAR is that it's very, very accurate, but it also has a very small mag size, so you have to hit your shots. And now they've decreased the damage to 25 from 26, so you're not going to do as much damage anymore, but you still have the same mag size. So, you know, like, yes, it's good, and yes, everyone is using it, but it's not because it's super strong, it's because all of the other weapons for the medium is super inaccurate, right? So if you just, I think it's better to, like, buff the other weapons instead of nerfing this. I think, for example, the AKM should have just got a buff so that it didn't have visual recoil anymore, or something like that. But here we are. So this damage has been decreased to 25 from 26. I think it should have been decreased to like 23 or something, and then got an extra 5 bullets in the mag. That would have been ideal for me. But this is a start anyway. They're trying to make the FCR kind of not the meta anymore, which I understand. I don't think that's going to change anything. It's a very, very, very small nerf. I don't think it's really going to shake things up at all, especially because the AKM here isn't getting a buff. So I think SCR is still going to be very, very meta. It's just going to be maybe a tiny bit harder to kill people now with it, but it's not going to make the biggest difference ever. Guardian Turret, decreased health to 280 from 300. Now this is interesting because the Guardian Turret needs a buff, right? You have the Healing Beam, which is very, very, very strong, and then you've got the Recon Senses, which is also very, very, very strong. Like, people don't really use the turret. You can use the turret, but the Healing Beam and the Recon Senses are just better, especially if you're playing in a full team. If you're playing in a full team, you're probably not going to be using the turret. You're probably going to have 2 mediums with, like, Recon Senses on, and then 1 medium with the Healing Beam, right? They're just better than the turret. And this is getting nerfed. Its health got nerfed to 280 from 300. Its health got nerfed by 20. I think it should have been buffed. I think it needed to either lock onto people faster or do more damage or something like that. But no, here we are. It's just getting nerfed, and I don't think that's fantastic. It would have been okay if maybe like the health was decreased, but it did more damage. So it was like it packed more of a punch, but it was easier to destroy or something like that. But this is just a full-on nerf, and it's kind of interesting because I don't think it was necessary. But hey, at least it's going to be easier to destroy those turrets now. MGL32, increased player damage to 83 from 80. So this has, I think it's 8 bullets in the gun or 6 bullets in the gun. I'm not too sure. But the max size is very small, and it's very, very hard to actually hit people with this thing. So they've buffed the damage to 83 from 80, which I guess is nice if you're someone that likes this weapon. But I don't think it's going to change a whole lot either. It's just a nice little buff for it, I suppose. Throwing knives. Decrease the amount of projectile dispersion applied when falling. That's good. It's been made to be more accurate. Decrease the amount of projectile dispersion applied when sprinting. So it's also just been made to be more accurate. That's actually quite good, because I know with the throwing knives, unless you're like moving very slowly or like crouching, it's very hard to hit shots. So I think those are both good changes. So onto the content and bug fixes. Crashes. Fixed an issue where certain GPUs would sometimes crash. That's good. Any fixes to any types of crashes is always good. Matchmaking. Fixed an issue where crossplay settings would not be respected when the player was in a party. Okay, so just fixed a bug for crossplay then, I guess. So updated matchmaking configuration in tournament and ranked tournament modes to help ensure closer matches by skill rating. Now, this is where you put more stuff in the patch notes. Like, the devs have been very, very good at putting up patch notes and saying what everything is. But, like, I remember in the last patch, they changed the colors. And that was, like, a massive change. You can actually kind of see which team is which team now in-game. And they didn't list that in the patch notes. And they definitely should have. Because it was kind of a big change. Like, if you change really, really minor stuff, like, that's in the UI, I don't care. You don't have to put that in the patch notes. But here, you gotta be a bit more specific. Because I don't know what this means, you know? Like, I don't know what's actually been changed here. Because even the ELO itself that's used to matchmake you in the ranked mode is hidden. So they're saying they've changed some type of way that the hidden ELO works that we can't see. You know, so this is like super, super fake. I don't know what's happened with it. But hopefully it makes the matches a bit fairer. Because right now, or at least before this patch, the rank system completely sucked. The way it worked was you would have a hidden ELO. So if you're in Bronze 5 and you win 3 games in a row and you go up to Bronze 3, your hidden ELO might actually be like Gold 1. So you might be a player in Bronze 3 playing against a player in Gold 1 because of your hidden elo that you can't see, right? So it just wasn't, it didn't really feel very right. So on your team, you could have like a Bronze 5 player, a Silver 1 player, and like a Platinum 1 player, you know, all on the same team playing against like a full team of diamonds or something like that. So, you know, it really didn't make much sense. The way the rank should work, and the way it works in most other games, is if you're in like Bronze 3, you can play with anyone from Bronze 5 to Bronze 1. You know, like above and below 2, I think would make sense, or above and below 3 or something like that. Just someone that's kind of actually got to the same rank as you in the same game as you, and then a full team of those types of people. I think that would be good. That's how it probably should work. I'm hoping that that's what this has been changed to, but I don't know, because it's really, really quite vague. But hey, if someone's been playing Tournament all day, in the comments down below, let me know. Let me know if it feels any different. I'm still yet to hop into any tournament modes, ranked modes rather. But let me know if it feels any different. But like, there's just no way of knowing what's actually been changed here. So yeah. But there you go. Oh, for the most part, this has been good changes. Like this right here, the Defibrillator is definitely a big change. Now you're not going to be able to just kind of dive into a fight so much, and Defibrillator you're going to have to play a bit more carefully, which is definitely a good thing. Revolver made to be more accurate, which is good. Maybe more people will use that now. Little buff for the CL40, don't think that's going to change a whole lot. Little buff for the FCAR, don't think it's going to change a whole lot. Little nerf to the turret, like if you were using the turret before, you're probably still going to be using the turret, so it's not changing a whole lot. MGL32, very small buff, not going to change a whole lot. Throw in there some more accurate, it's not going to change much. So, like, the meta hasn't really changed here. The major buff is the Defibrillator, and that's about it. Nothing else has really changed, like, but I don't think that's really a bad thing either. I think sometimes it's okay to kind of just buff things incrementally, see how they are, and then like buff them again if you need to. Turret nerf is definitely weird though. I think it probably needed a buff of some type to compete with the healing beam and recon senses, but apart from that, I think everything is kind of okay here. And obviously, I don't know how this is working because it's just not really specified. But for the next patch, I think some type of buff to the AKM, so that it didn't have any visual recoil, would be very, very, very good. Just so it's like not every single player is running FCAR, just so some people are running FCAR and some people are running AKM. I think that would be great. I remember playing it in the betas. The AKM didn't have that much visual recoil, and it was perfectly good. It was like perfectly okay. I think in the second beta or in the open beta, the FCAR came out, and like an equal number of people used the AKM and the FCAR, you know? At least from what I remember anyway. So, and like it didn't have any visual recoil back then. So if they just removed the visual recoil, I think it would be better. I think it would kind of divide the player base between the FCR and the AKM, and I think that would be good. But yeah, I don't really know why they added visual recoil into it. They added visual recoil to a lot of different weapons, and in general, I think visual recoil is like a really bad thing. I remember trying to play like Warzone a while ago, and the visual recoil was just awful. And now with the newer Warzone game that came out, they like made it so that there's no visual recoil anymore for most of the weapons, and like everyone liked it. Like I don't really like visual recoil in general. I think if they anyway, yeah, I'm rambling on too much here. But yeah, for the next week's patch, they've said that they're going to buff or overhaul the recon senses anyway, which is good. I'd like to see some type of buff for the grappling hook. I think that would be good. And I'd also like to see some buff for the AKM as well. And maybe a buff to light, like up the light's health from like 150 to 175, or give them a new gadget that's actually useful or something like that, because right now the light still isn't very good. But yeah, there you go. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to be it for this video. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Farewell.